many of us face immense challenges in our lives. I want to uncover secrets and principles to building a life filled with purpose, not weighed down by hardship. I'm Kirsty, your host in this journey. Each episode, I'll be talking to different people, sharing their stories and practical steps to help us to design a life that we love. Joining me today, we have got Amy McAuley, and Amy is amazing. She's all about empowering women to overcome adversity, overcome self-limiting belief, emotional pain, all of these things which hold us back. And so, Amy, it's great to have you on the show today. Welcome along.
Thank you so much, Kirsty. It's a real pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you're up to and what life is like for you.
I moved to New Zealand about nearly 6 years ago and have been living in this amazing country for that length of time. Love it. And obviously we moved from Scotland, which is where I'm initially from. I have 3 children and a husband, and yeah, we just decided to move here to try something different, try a new lifestyle. And I brought over with me this incredible exercise, Powerhooping, and I started up my business 5 years ago, helping people get in great shape mentally and physically, the fun way. I discovered it back in the UK when I was working for a friend of mine who was working in a ladies' gym. And I went into the first class and I just couldn't believe how much fun this exercise class was. And prior to that, I really was a bit allergic to exercise. And so when I discovered this, I was like, wow, this is so much fun. And just had this real inkling that I wanted to bring over to New Zealand. I wanted some kind of project to get my teeth into. And so I started running these classes when I moved here, and I started my classes about 5 years ago. Yeah.
Excellent. So what was it about these classes that made you feel really good? What was it that you loved? You said you're allergic to exercise. I love that saying. But what changed for you?
I felt like it was something that really, up until then, I always thought exercising should be something that should feel punishing. And so I didn't ever realize that movement could be fun. And so when I first discovered this, it was like, it was just that, it was almost like the hoop was bringing out that inner child. And it was, kind of like it really allowed you to connect and have that time to really feel kind of joyful as well while you're moving. Yeah. And I just became really, really quickly addicted to that. The physical results I got from using the hoop was amazing. But for me, it's always been about the mental. And so I noticed that using this hoop, I started to feel a little bit more confident. I started to feel a little more positive in my life. And it started triggering more positive habits in my life, which, having battled with various sort of mental health issues for a few years, quite a few years, I really noticed that this had a real impact on my life and the way I lived it. And, it's had such a positive impact on my life. But not only mine, it's because I've been teaching these classes now for 5 years, I've seen the effect it's had on so many other people. And that's really what gives me so much joy, is to see how this can really impact on other people's lives. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I can hear your energy in your voice. Like, you're just alive. You've got so much enthusiasm for this. Were you like that before you did power hooping? Is this like foundationally who you are? You said you've struggled with mental illness. You've struggled with depression.
Yeah.
Tell us about previously what you were like.
Yeah. So I think I was slightly suppressed in terms of my happiness levels and my energy. I battled with bulimia for probably 15 years, where it's a really unhealthy relationship with your own body and food, and it was pretty intense. And so I think I also, I've got 3 beautiful children, and each time I had a child, I battled with post-natal depression. So I really know how it feels to be on the other side of where I am right now. I used alcohol to suppress a lot of these feelings I had. So I know that I definitely drank too much alcohol and smoked and did all the things that really were not conducive to a healthier, happy life, basically.
Were you aware that you're using these things to cover something else up?
No, not at the time.
No.
I didn't really understand why. I just thought it was a bit weird. I didn't really understand what was going on. I just thought that was how life was. I always thought that, you know, just that feeling of getting by was kind of like just normal. So it's not really until you can live life on the other side that you reflect back and you see how clear, how awful really things can be in your own head when you get out of it. At the time, it just feels like that's the norm.
Yeah, I understand. We cover things up and we do create normals for ourselves.
Yeah.
Are you happy to talk about your bulimia? Can we go down that track a little bit?
Of course.
So how did this all start? And this was another coping mechanism, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it was when I moved to university for the first time, and I kind of remember how it started was, you know, I moved into a flat with some lovely girls and stuff, and in my head they were really, really beautiful, and they were all lovely and slim, and I always felt a little bit out of place. I was always big boned.
Were you though, or was that in your mind?
I think it was in my mind, to be honest. I look back and some of the pictures, you know, like I was healthy looking. I would never, if I was looking at myself now, I would not tell myself I was in any way big boned or, but I always felt that way. I always felt that way from a really young age. But I guess when I moved to this away from home for the first time, and being amongst these gorgeous girls that were working in this really popular bar, and I got a job there and everything, and I was really aware that I was the kind of chunkier one, or so. I don't know why I was comparing myself weight wise, but and I remember quickly I started to, because I'd moved away from home, I wasn't eating the same way I was at home, and I stopped eating the meals as such, and I guess over time I started drastically reducing what I was eating, and I noticed that I was losing quite a lot of weight. And what was happening though was that I was starting to gain a lot of attention from the opposite sex. I was starting to feel for the first time in my life really quite attracted to the other sex. So it became a bit of an obsession, and it became a bit of an addiction. And I think one day I remember being overwhelmed with real hunger. I'd stopped eating for quite a number of weeks, possibly months. I can't remember, but I look back and it's,
When you say stopped eating, how much you have to eat something to get by?
So
what do you mean by stopped eating?
As much. So I stopped eating hot meals. I stopped eating I just over time reduced drastically what I was having. It got to the stage where I was having like a cup of soup and maybe a piece of fruit for the whole day. You know, I lost quite,
day.
So it was a gradual thing. It started off thinking that I was fully in control, and it was a great feeling at first because I thought, oh, this is fantastic. You know, I can really control this. But I guess the bulimia sort of set in when I felt like I started eating something that I didn't feel I should, and then it got out of control, and that's when it developed into something different. And so it literally commanded and dictated my life for the next 15 years.
Wow, 15 years. Wow. And at what point did you realize that this was actually out of your control rather than something you were using to control things with?
I'll never forget the day that it was as early as at uni, and I had an assignment to hand in at university one day, and in the morning all the girls were getting ready to go to uni for the day, and I had this, I knew I had to go and drop this assignment, and it was so important, and the voice at the back of my head was like, no, like you're going to have the house to yourself today, let's go and have a feast. And so I was like having this sort of argument in my head. I was wanting to go to uni, and then the other part of me was like, no, go to the shops and buy lots of nice food. So that day I went to the shops and bought lots of food, and I remember, you know, I must have been in that toilet 20 times that day. And at the end of the day, my friend came home from uni, and I remember running from my room to her room. I had the first and probably only ever real panic attack that I'd ever had, and I genuinely thought I was going to die. I thought, I'm not going to make this. I couldn't breathe, and I was just really, really struggling. And I think that was the first time that I really realised that I had lost the control, and that I was no longer in the driving seat of this this thing that was going on. It was really
Wow.
scary.
Yeah, that's really scary to totally lose control like that.
Yeah.
So how did you move out of this? Do you still struggle with this today? And what sort of things did you take to get on your journey away from it?
Oh, it was, as I say, like I think one of the first things I did, which was about 8 years ago, 8 or 9, I think it was about 9, I can't remember exactly, but I stopped drinking alcohol because, as I said, alcohol was playing a really negative role in my life. And I guess I didn't think so at the time, but something deep down told me that there was an issue. So I gave that up, and then when I discovered the exercising, I started to really connect with myself a little bit more. And I guess when I started to move my body in a way that felt good, I knew that nutrition and what I was putting in my body was going to be important. And so as I became a fitness instructor and wanted to teach exercising, I realised that I needed to be a positive role model, not only to myself and my children, but to other people as well. So I really needed to change it around. Now, don't get me wrong, over the years, and this is what I would definitely say to people if they're going through something like this, is I have been in and out of counselling over the years, and it helped me enormously. I got something called cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, and that really helped with my eating. But truly, it wasn't until I started to become, I guess, an influencer in other people's lives that I knew I needed to walk the walk, and I needed to make the changes, not just for other people, for myself, of course, as well. But I needed to have that. I needed to take the control back to myself. I didn't want my children growing up knowing that that's who their mum was. I wanted their mum to be a positive role model in their lives.
Wow. So that's quite a journey you've been on. What would you say was the lowest point of that? Was that time when you went and had that big feast?
That would have been one of the lowest times. There was another low time that I remember, and it was when I had been at a friend's birthday. I had all my 3 children, and my youngest was just a baby, and we went round to my friend's house. Now, obviously, after the baby, I had reduced, because for some reason when I was pregnant, I managed to eat okay because I knew that I was feeding my babies inside me, so that was okay. But as soon as the baby came out and I'd stopped breastfeeding, then of course I neglected myself again. And I remember we went to this party, and in hindsight now I can laugh, but it wasn't funny at the time. And we'd gone along, and I'd had a few drinks, because obviously with not eating very much, the drink doesn't have anywhere to go, so straight to your head. And I went to my friend's bathroom and fell asleep on the toilet. And obviously made a massive scene, because everyone was worried about me and where is Amy. And so it turned out like I got carried out, like, the men had to break the bathroom down and get me out. And I woke up the next day, and I was in my wearing all my clothes, and I remember the kids rattling around downstairs with my husband, and I just thought, what am I doing? Like, I feel like I didn't want to be there in that moment. I was just like, this is just the rock bottom. This is just like, I'm a mother of 3. You're acting like a teenager. You're acting like you're so irresponsible. You've got these 3 beautiful kids that are relying on you. Why are you behaving like this? So that was a real move. That was a real turning point for me.
How did that make you feel?
Awful. Like, I mean, I stayed in bed all day. I called it the duvet day. I've written a book about this, and in that chapter it talks about the duvet day, and it was horrendous. Like, I literally did not want to move out of that bed all day, and it just felt like I was just like heavy. I was depressed. I was like, I can't go on like this. Something has to change. And so I think that was probably one of the lowest points, I think.
Yeah. So then how did you start to step away from that behavior? Because I think we get really ingrained in patterns, don't we? We start to do something, and you've talked about not being in control anymore. How do you break a pattern which is controlling us?
Absolutely. It's difficult. And when you get to know yourself, then I think you find ways that work for you. And my journey to stopping drinking was to read a book. I read a book by Alan Carr called How to Control Your Drinking. And as soon as I finished reading that book, I stopped drinking.
Really? Sounds like a good book.
It was a really good book. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't have any intention of stopping drinking when I was reading the book. I thought, oh, I'd love to control my alcohol. But then I realised that that wasn't going to be something that I could do. And I guess for me, it's around, you know, I find it easy to, I'm very good at sustaining from something. So if I can convince myself that I need to sustain from something for a reason, a good, valid, a positive reason, then I can do it. Like I find it hard to introduce just a little bit. Like, so I couldn't just say, oh, just have one glass of wine at the weekend, because that doesn't work for somebody like me who's got this kind of personality where it's kind of all or nothing. Yeah. Where I used to use that all or nothing mentality in a really negative way, but I can actually use it in a really positive way now for myself. So, you know, for me, giving up refined sugar, which I knew was something that was really detrimental to my physical health and mental health, you know, it was easy for me to give that up because it was like, you know, it's not helping me. So if it's not there, then I don't need to worry about it. So it was the same with the alcohol. And when I made the decision that I didn't want bulimia, because I remember actually saying to myself, when I moved to New Zealand, I leave all of that behind me. I made that decision. It was like, I'm not bringing any of this with me. And I didn't. And so, you know,
none of it at all.
No, like I haven't, yeah. So it's been a good few years. Like I've been, you know, in a really good space for a number of years now. And,
how was that when you were leading up to getting on the plane? Was there, I've talked to a lot of women in the past who struggle with eating disorders, and we say, right, we're going to work on this. We start on Monday or we start on Tuesday, whatever day.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the few days before the start date.
Yes.
Just go to town, make the most of it, just totally binge or whatever. How did you feel the few days before you got on the plane, aware that you're about to leave behind all of these, I guess, sabotaging behaviours, things which are holding you back?
I think, to be honest with you, I didn't put that, I made the decision on my way. So I didn't say this, I didn't decide to do it before. I decided on my way as I was in transit. It was like, you know, this is a new life. It was a really interesting and very powerful transformation. It was a very powerful transition period, because we were physically moving, and it was like a whole fresh start for everything. And so I just knew that this was going to be something. I just felt like this is where A, I belonged, and B, where I could really make something positive come from something so negative.
So do you have any regrets for the past?
No, I believe everything happens for a reason. So I'm happy. I wouldn't change anything. I feel that I've gained so much wisdom. I feel like I've been given this incredible opportunity, and I want to share it. This is why I believe that all of this happened for a reason, so that I could go on to share what I've discovered, share what I've learned about making the changes in my life, and share that wisdom with people that are going through something similar. I remember how isolated I felt in many times, whether it be in post-natal depression, whether it be with a hangover, whether it be in the midst of a binge. You know, I remember the isolation, and I remember all I wanted to know, and I remember asking my counsellor over and over, is, am I going to be okay? Do people recover from this, like, properly? And he could never give me an answer. And I would love to be able to say to people, to be that voice of hope for people, to say to them, look, if I can do it, you can do it too. It is absolutely 100% doable, because I'm walking living proof that you can turn your life around 100%, and go from a space of surviving to living. You know, today I believe is International Happiness Day, and it's interesting because, you know, I think for many years I did not allow myself to really feel true happiness, whereas now I do. Now I know what it feels like.
So tell us a little bit about your life today. You obviously are very happy. You've got a lot of energy and enthusiasm. When you wake up in the morning, how do you feel?
I wake up with a spring in my step. Mostly I will wake up feeling grateful for the life that I've got, grateful for the opportunities, and I feel, I started writing out my gratitudes a few years ago, and so I'm always coming from that space of real gratitude for what I have right now. So I usually wake up with a real sense of optimism, a real sense of positivity, and look, I still deal with life's curveballs. My own dad passed away just 4 weeks ago, so I've been on a real roller coaster over the last few weeks, but it's been really interesting. So I haven't obviously been waking up every morning with this real spring in my step, but the difference is that this is the first curveball that life has thrown me since my recovery from all of the things I used to do. So the old me would have dealt with this in a very different way. But what I'm finding is that I feel like, I'm going through the motions of the grief and everything, but I'm still coming from a space of gratitude, and I'm still feeling, like positive about my life. Like, I know that there's real sad moments, but I've not lost it, and I haven't gone back. It was of course, there's going to be, have a drink, you'll feel better, or have some food, or like some sugary stuff, or like but I know none of that serves me anymore, so why would I do something to myself that makes me feel bad? I want to do stuff for myself that makes me feel good. So life is very different. I used to wake up with dread in my heart, and I used to wake up with that sense of, another day, what am I going to, almost like wishing the day away, or wishing myself until 5:30 when it was okay to have a glass of wine. But now life is very different now.
Oh, good. So you feel positive about your future?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what sort of things do you have in your life? What sort of habits or routines or things that you do on a regular basis to ensure that you stay in this place? Because like you say, you still have those temptations to go back to whatever it is.
Yes.
And we've only really touched on the bulimia. You've talked about all sorts of mental illness that you've had. What sort of things keep you looking forward and keep you positive?
Yeah, for me, the number one thing, which has really, really just literally saved my life and saved my mental health, has been exercise. And primarily my power hooping. Like, that's what I feel has been the consistent thing in my life for the last few years. And it's really been a massive curve for me. So, if there was one takeaway, one piece of advice I would give anybody, and it was a piece of advice my counsellor gave me, and he said, are you moving? Like, are you doing it? And I never understood the link between mental health and physical activity. And when I discovered that, it was like it was like I'd found this piece of magic, like this incredible secret. And so by finding a way of moving, not everyone's going to, it's like, find a way of moving your body that you enjoy. And for me, it was, my power hooping, and that escalated onto other things. But so regular exercise has been so huge in my life. And obviously what I put in I've now obviously realised that food and the way I feed my body, the food that I put in my body, has a direct impact on my mental health as well. So I really do only eat food that serves me and makes me feel good. And the same, obviously, I eliminated alcohol and smoking and all that kind of stuff. But the things, like the habits that I do every day, is I meditate every day. So I spend at least 15 minutes to 20 minutes or so every morning meditating. And, I write out my gratitudes. I write out every day, 10 things that I'm grateful for. And I do something called tapping, which is emotional freedom technique. I tap every morning as well, which is it's a really powerful tool for dealing with stressful situations and things. So I do that. And those are the main things. I drink lots of water, and it's not rocket science. I mean, the thing is that we know all of this stuff, but what I do is I put it into practice daily, and it you know, and I read really, the other thing that really helped me change my life was reading positive books. I could tell you some of the books that literally saved my life as well. And, you know, reading a positive book, like I read a lot of books that, you know, change your mindset. And I think that's key as well.
Yeah. So for somebody who might be in a rather tricky situation right now, or they're feeling, well, it's okay for you, Amy, but what about for me? You don't understand, it's hard.
Yeah.
What are some of those starting points? What would you suggest to somebody who's really at the beginning phase, apart from power hooping, obviously?
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously the power hooping is just that's just part of what I do. And it could be as simple. I mean, it started with go for a walk, you know, get into nature. Like, I love to get into nature every day. And I also know how challenging that can be when you really don't feel like it. So really start small, just do one little thing, wake up with one intention to do one thing. You know, when you're not in that good space, everything can feel really overwhelming. But the one thing that I would say is go get moving. You know, it's, even if it's just a lovely little walk down by the beach, or a lovely little walk just anywhere, get out and get into nature. And that can be a really good start. And just be really gentle in yourself. You know, I fully understand how it feels to be on that side, and I've been there for many, many years, so I know exactly how it feels. So when somebody says to me, it's okay for you, I love to remind people that, look, it wasn't okay for me, but I've changed it, and I know how to change it. And it is simple. It's taking one little step at a time. I didn't start with all these other habits. It was one little step at a time. And ask yourself, what do you need most right now? And also the other thing that I would suggest to people is find someone to talk to. You know, a problem shared is a problem halved, and I really believe that. And even the last few weeks of my life with my dad passing, you know, I've opened up way more than I would have in the past to my friends and to people that I trust. And that's really helped the grieving process. You know, it's really been good to be able to talk. And it really does just feel good to be able to talk to people. You know, isolation can be really, really, when you're in a space of depression or you know, in that horrible place, you sometimes feel like you might be a burden on people, or you might feel like you don't want to put your problems onto other people, or you just don't want to. But you know, find that, even if it's if it's somebody that's neutral, find somebody you can talk to, because it really does, or even a helpline or something, where you can just have somebody to listen to you, and I'm sure that would save hundreds, if not thousands, of lives if people could just reach out in those moments.
That's what I love about our online world today. People criticize it, but there's so much goodness in it as well, that we can find support groups online. We can find people to have accountability and conversations with, just to keep us there. And it's not about being a burden, because if we all help everybody, then, you know, it makes greater good for everything, doesn't it?
Of course it does. You know, if we reach out, absolutely. And you know, look around you as well. Like, who in your life, who can you help? Like, you know, look around you and notice if you think somebody's maybe a bit quiet, or, you know, we all get really busy in our lives, and we can all be really, you know, rushing around, and you know, it can be the ones that are really close to us that are suffering, that we just need to open our eyes a little bit and reach out, or go, you know, invite someone for a coffee that you think's not been quite themselves. And you know, when you're in that space, it's really hard sometimes to reach out to people. But so our job as other people is reach out to those that you think might need your help.
So what would you say, Amy, is your greatest message for the world?
Learn how to fall in love with yourself. You know, you're going to be spending the rest of your life with yourself. There's no one else that you can guarantee that you're going to be spending the rest of your life with. Really, there's no one except yourself. And if you spend the rest of your life not liking yourself, and I don't mean, when I say loving yourself, I don't mean in a really you know, way that, I can't think of the word right now, but, you know, in a conceited way. You know, I'm talking about in a really self-nurturing way. Learn to love yourself. I mean, it's taken me a few years to really learn to love and accept myself exactly as I am. And that's including all the flaws and believe me, there are a few flaws, but that's okay. I love all of the flaws. Like, I've learned to love and accept myself. And if I can say to somebody, learn to love and accept yourself, learn ways of doing that, grow your confidence by doing things like, moving your body and nurturing yourself. Nurture yourself. Learn to love yourself and learn to love your life as it is. We are surrounded by social media the whole time, and we're constantly in this situation where we're comparing our lives with other people. It's like, stay in that space of gratitude. What we have, we've got happiness in us right now. We really do. We've got the potential to be happy right now. We've got all the tools in us. We just need to find it. We just need to find ways of learning to live our best life now, and we do have it within us. We just need to find the way that, of learning to love ourselves, love yourself, and love your life. And that's the best advice that I could find. That's
I love it. And that all comes back to these steps that you're saying about taking exercise, eating well. All of that is the starting phase of learning how to love ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you're feeding your body crap, and when you're not moving, you're giving yourself this subconscious message that you're not worth it, that you're not worthy. And when you treat yourself well, when you move your body well, when you eat well, when you treat yourself, when you do something nice for yourself every single day, you're giving yourself a very different message. And imagine yourself as that inner child. Imagine yourself as that little 7-year-old girl or boy, and how would you treat them? So that person's still inside you. Would you treat your own child like that? No, you wouldn't treat anyone else like that. So why treat yourself? Like, why would you say such awful things to yourself? It's like, notice how you talk to yourself. What kind of things are you telling yourself every day? And notice that stop beating yourself up about everything. Start being kind to yourself.
Definitely. For somebody who might be in quite a rut and feeling like they can't even start, have you got any words for that situation?
Yeah, like, reach out and talk to someone. Find somebody that you can talk to, and even start journaling or start writing stuff down, or simple as just get yourself out into nature, go for a walk, or write down 10 things that you've got right now in your life that you're grateful for. There are lots of ways you can start and find the thing that resonates for you. Learn how to do a little bit of meditation. Just be really gentle on yourself. Don't expect too much of yourself, and just be kind. It's a big journey. It's a long journey, but it's one that's well worth traveling, because when you get to live your life with a different outlook, you'll never look back. It's like riding a bike. Like, when you finally get it, you'll never unlearn the stuff you learn. So you'll never need to look back, and you'll never need to go back into that space if you don't want to. It's all a matter of choice.
It completely is. It totally is choice. And a lot of it, I think, is stepping beyond our comfort zone, where we feel like we can't do something. And if we can just start the process, anything is possible. Absolutely anything. I love it. I love what you're saying. I think that the future is really positive for all of us. It can be. We've got to be able to step forward. We've got to be able to move from our current circumstances and not let them to define us.
Absolutely.
So, Amy, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a bit about your journey, your adventure, and some tips to get us back in that driver's seat. Tell us a little bit more about the power hooping. Is this all over the world?
It is. It originated over in Norway in 1998 or 96, I think, and it's slowly sweeping its way through Europe. But this is the first time it's gone international. So New Zealand were the first to start it over here.
Oh wow! How exciting!
But I tell you something. Going back to that very briefly about the comfort zone, I moved here with. I brought over boxes and boxes and boxes of hoops, and they sat in my garage for about 6 months because I was too scared to do anything about it. I was I was so in that, like, now when I first started to do my class, you know, when I look back on the journey, we've got power hooping now in 14 different communities around New Zealand. And that's
well
14 different communities where there's powerful stuff going on within those communities. There's friendships, there's people feeling better about themselves, there's communities coming together, there's confidence being grown. Those are the things that get me really excited. So if their lives have literally changed as a result of me stepping out of that comfort zone, if I hadn't removed myself out of that comfort zone, if I had allowed myself to talk myself out of it, you know, I hate to think what would have happened. So we
owe the world to do these things. When we feel these inklings, and people talk about getting that spidey sense, the tingles, all these types of things, when we get those feelings of I need to do something, we owe it to the world to go and do these things, because we never know the impact that it's going to have. Yeah, totally.
We've got to shine our lights. We can't be afraid of shining our lights. Like we're all here with a reason, and we're all here with a purpose. And you know, as soon as we find that, you know, we've got to share it, and we've got to shine our lights, and we've got to help light up the world. And you know, that's why.
And we've got to understand that we have a responsibility to do this. It's not the few people out there. Like, we're all the same. We're all humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all here for a time and then we leave. And it's not like certain special people have the ability. We all have the ability. But we need to step into it. Yeah, every single one of us.
Absolutely, every single person. Everyone that I see, you know, everyone you walk past in the street, everyone you meet, every single person has got a reason for being here. And
totally.
So it's lovely to see people shine their lights and you know, and support each other. You know, when even the energy we put out into the universe, even on Facebook or Instagram, you know, put love out. The more love we learn to put out, the more that we can help raise the consciousness of the planet. So, you know, everyone can make a difference.
Yeah, let's keep it positive and send some light out.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you, Amy. Thank you
my
so
pleasure.
much.
So if you've enjoyed this episode of the Let's Talk Life Design podcast, I would love your support to help me get these messages and conversations out there. It would mean a whole lot to me if you could either share the podcast with your friends and family, or if you could link to the podcast homepage over at letstalklifedesign.com. There's also a Facebook page which gives a little bit more story and details around the interviews as they take place, and any positive reviews or subscription on iTunes would also be amazing. I really appreciate you joining me and your support as I talk to amazing guests on our show. My heart is really that I would be a channel for others to get their messages out there, to inspire our listeners to live their best life and to learn how to implement these life design principles. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you soon, where we'll uncover more strategies and steps to designing that life that we love.